Hello, boys and girls. Miss Weiss here. Guess what time it is? It's art time with Miss Weiss. And what season are we in right now? That's right, it's spring. We are going to make a spring tree. So you'll need all of the materials you saw in the previous picture, the white paper, brown paper, green and pink paper, and then all of the other materials you see here. And I forgot to mention, you need glue. So let's get started. First, we'll get out the brown paper to make that tree trunk with the branches. For that handout, I get to put my fingers up at the top. I move my paper down so that you can see this is going to be the trunk here. So it's straight. If I do it like this, it ends up being sideways, so straight here. And then we're just going to spread our fingers out wide branches. Start at the bottom, trace close to the edge of your arm and your fingers, trying not to move those fingers, keeping them in place. Now it is time to cut it out. The white paper is going to be our background. But before we glue on our hand, let's figure out where it's going to be. I think I want my tree to be this tall. Notice that it's sticking off the edge here. I'm going to cut. I'll leave a little space on the bottom for grass. So I'm going to cut off the bottom of my hand. That's how it's going to be. Now, before I glue on, I'm going to color in the background. You can draw with pencil first and then color it in, or you can go straight to the crayons. I like to draw first and then trace, just in case I want to erase and make some adjustments. So here's my grass going up and down, and then I'll draw a few little flowers. Here I'm adding a little more grass around the tulips and some straight lines across the bottom. Okay, so that's what it's gonna look like with my tree, my little flowers. What else do we see in the spring? Birds. I think if we put the tree here and then draw, if you want to draw a little nest, birds sitting on top. Maybe you want to add little chicks. Now this is why I'm doing a pencil, because I just thought, oh, I need to add the chicks. Snuggled in their nest. And here's the mommy bird. And what is she gonna have in her beak? Something to feed her chicks, of course. Fluffy clouds up here. Okay, and then here I can write spring, SP, spur, and then ing. Do you remember what ing makes? What letters make the ing sound? I-N-G. Ing. Spur, ing, spring. And then remember tree is T-R, trr, and the double E. Spring tree. Draw some lines here for my sky. Maybe some rolling hills back here. Now I trace. Now remember, I haven't glued this on yet. That's gonna go last, but I did place it here so that I could draw around it. So I like to trace and then color in. And I'm gonna trace my words, spring tree. Color in a little light green on my hillside. And then this is the tricky part. It's hard to trace little pictures, isn't it? But I'm gonna do my best. Now, if you would like, if you have a Sharpie, you can trace that. So your bird is more defined. And your little baby chicks. All right. And I'll just make this little red bird here. Trace my breezy lines. Oh, you know what? You could even add a rainbow if you'd like in your picture. I just thought of that. Here are my puffy clouds. Okay, next step is painting. So, go grab your materials and come back to paint with me. Now we paint. Now you can use the paintbrush that came in your paint palette. I'm just gonna, I don't want to color over the clouds, those are white. I'm just gonna paint around. So I prefer the bigger paintbrush because it just covers a little more space. So I'm gonna paint the sky blue, and down here, I'm just gonna fill in the green parts with some green. And I can just paint right over the crayon because the crayon resists the water. See that? Okay, so go ahead and paint your picture. Now remember, do not paint, don't get too much water on your paper because it can rip. I'm being careful just to put paint in the white spots here, but I don't want to keep painting over and over because if my paper gets too wet, it will rip. All right, so I'm gonna paint that and let it dry. So you go ahead and do the same, and we'll come back here and put the rest of the project together, or do the next step. I had an idea, boys and girls. Because the crayon resists the water, I decided to color in my clouds. That way, if I accidentally get paint in my cloud, the paint will resist this white crayon here, so I can color that in where I want my clouds. And I discovered that I have another blue paint here that's a little bit brighter. So look at that. If I accidentally get over the lines, it kind of resists. It's kind of cool. Before I add my hand, this is the next step. I wanted to show you that I didn't quite get all the sky where I wanted it to. So I'm gonna paint this first. let it dry, and then I will be gluing on my hand where I want it on the paper. We are ready to glue. I'm going to just put it on the parts that need to be glued down. Place that where I want it with the nest sitting on the branches. And what does our spring tree need? It needs some baby leaves and some flowers. Have you ever seen the trees that have flowers in the spring? They're so beautiful. They're some of my favorites. So we're gonna do some tear art here. And I'm just gonna tear and crinkle and add some flowers around. I'm not gonna smush them down in a little ball. I'm gonna leave them kind of open like that. Just crinkle it up a little bit. So I'm gonna do that all over my paper around the tree. And I'm also going to add little baby leaves. They're small in the spring. So I'm gonna make tiny leaves to add to my branches as well. Okay, so go ahead and tear some pieces of green for the leaves and little pieces of tissue paper. If you would rather cut your paper, you can also do that. You can cut squares and do the same thing. Whatever's easiest for you. Now I have all of my pieces, the green for the leaves and the pink, and now I'm just putting spots of glue where I want to put the flowers and the leaves. Okay, here it is. My finished work. I added all of the little green leaves and all of the pink flowers. Look at that. Doesn't it look like a beautiful spring tree? I can't wait to see all of your spring trees.